Part 1. A Confession in the Dark. I never thought I would live long enough to tell this story. Not because I feared death. No, I made peace with that a long time ago. But because when you deal with what I dealt with, the odds are against you. People like me don't get to walk away clean. We either vanish without a trace or end up in padded rooms, screaming at shadows no one else can see. I used to be a warlock. Not the kind you see in Halloween costumes or fantasy games. I mean the real deal. Rituals, symbols, blood. I served something I thought I understood, something ancient and powerful. But I was wrong. So very wrong. I didn't start out evil. I was just curious. I wanted answers. Why do people suffer? What happens after we die? Why do some places feel like they're watching you when no one's around? Those questions ate at me, and religion didn't fill the hole. So I looked elsewhere. At first, it was harmless. Occult books, online forums, strange communities that promised enlightenment. But the deeper I went, the darker it got. Until I crossed a line I didn't even see. I was 22 the first time I performed a real ritual. Not the fake kind you read in supermarket books. This one worked. I felt something shift in the air, like a vacuum sucking the warmth from the room. The candles flickered against the wind that wasn't there. And I heard it, whispers behind the walls. It was intoxicating. I didn't stop. Over the next few years, I became known in certain circles. They called me the Seeker. I had knowledge people feared. I could find things, call things, bend the night to my will. But with every step forward, I gave something up. Sleep, sanity, friends, family, love. And then came the portals. Let me tell you something you probably don't want to hear. Every night, sometime between 2:45 and 3:33 a.m., the world grows thinner. There are cracks in the veil that separates our reality from something darker. Most people don't notice. They sleep through it or blame the unease on bad dreams. But if you're awake, and if you're unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the right time, you'll feel it. The cold that sinks into your bones. The sudden silence that swallows every sound. The feeling that something just walked through you and smiled. Those are the portals. I've seen 3 of them with my own eyes. 3 specific doorways that open when the world isn't looking. And no, I don't mean literal doors. These are spiritual gateways, thin spots where things come through. I'll tell you about each one later. Right now, you need to understand something deeper. These portals don't open by chance. They open because something calls to them. Pain, despair, lust, rage, curiosity. They feed on us, on our energy, on the cracks inside us. I used to be the one calling. I opened those gates willingly. I thought I was in control. But control is an illusion. And the ones on the other side, they don't forget who opens the door. There was a night, a few years back, when I truly realized what I'd done. I had been working with a group of others, practitioners. Each of us had opened a different portal in different locations, thinking we could map the thresholds. We wanted to build a path, a bridge between this world and that one. We thought we were pioneers. What we were was bait. 3 of us went into that night. I'm the only one who came out. I still hear their screams. I still see their faces twisted in ways that human muscles aren't supposed to move. The air didn't just grow cold. It burned. It turned wrong. Time didn't flow right. Clocks spun backward. Shadows moved without light. Something stepped through. And when I tried to speak its name, my mouth filled with blood. That was the moment I turned away. The moment I knew this wasn't knowledge. It was bondage. And I had chained myself to something that wanted more than my mind or my body. It wanted my soul. You can call me crazy. Most people do. But I don't tell this story for fame or forgiveness. I tell it because you need to know. This world isn't what it seems. The night hides things, and the deeper you stare into the dark, the more it sees you. If you've ever woken up at exactly 3 a.m. and felt like something was watching you, if you've ever caught your own reflection blinking when you didn't, if you've heard voices whisper your name from empty rooms, then you're already near a portal. And if you don't act, it may open all the way. In the next part of this story, I'll show you the 3 portals I've encountered, what they look like, how they feed, and how they ruin. But for now, I want you to do something. Tonight, just before you go to sleep, look at yourself in the mirror for 10 full seconds. Don't blink. Don't look away. And if something moves that shouldn't, don't scream. That's how they know you're listening. Have you ever felt something strange at 3 a.m.? I want to hear your story. Share it in the comments. You're not alone. Follow me to uncover what they've hidden from us for centuries. Part 2. The 3 portals and their sinister signs. There's a moment right before a portal opens that you never forget. It's not loud. It doesn't come with thunder or lightning. It's quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your skull and squeezes until you feel like screaming just to break it. I used to chase that silence. I thought I was hunting truth. I was hunting death. When I told you there were 3 portals, I didn't mean metaphorical ones. I mean 3 actual thresholds where reality frays. I've been in their presence. I've watched them open. I've felt them breathe. And I've learned what they feed on. You need to understand what you're up against. So listen closely. The first is the mirror gate. This one's the most common. Almost every house has at least one mirror. Most people don't think twice when they glance into one. But a mirror isn't just glass. It's a reflection of this world, and sometimes something else reflects back. The mirror gate opens at exactly 3 a.m. That's not a superstition. That's not just folklore. It's the devil's hour for a reason. Spiritual energy is at its weakest. Faith is often dormant. And for those who know what to do, it's the perfect time to call the other side. I first encountered it in a brownstone apartment in New Orleans. The mirror was old, carved in bone-white oak, antique store junk. Or so we thought. We lit black candles, recited the chant in Latin, and stared into the glass. At first, it just shimmered, like heat waves. Then my reflection blinked. I hadn't. The thing in the mirror looked like me. But it wasn't. Its smile was too wide. Its eyes too dark. Its face too still. Then the glass cracked. Just a thin line. But the air in the room dropped 10 degrees instantly. We closed the ritual. But something got through. One of my friends, Clara, started seeing her reflection whispering to her, calling her name even when the room was silent. 2 weeks later, she jumped from her window. She thought she was escaping. The mirror gate doesn't just open. It latches. And once it knows your face, it can find you again. The second is the sound gate. Have you ever heard music late at night and couldn't tell where it was coming from? Or maybe you woke up to the faint sound of someone singing in another room, but no one else was awake? That's not your imagination. The sound gate opens through frequency. It doesn't need a ritual. It just needs the right vibration, the right note, the right pain. I experienced it in a cabin deep in the Appalachians. We had gone there to record ambient audio, something we believe could be used to map spiritual disturbances. We set up microphones, recorders, and left them running overnight. What came back wasn't just static. At 3:11 a.m., we caught a voice. It wasn't human. It sang in a language that chilled my blood, a low, throaty hum that made my ears ring. The sound was layered, like hundreds of people humming in unison, but all slightly off-key. Discordant. Wrong. Then we heard footsteps. Dragging ones. On the recording, We hadn't heard them with our ears, but the microphones had. When we listened to the recording, something changed in the room. The walls seemed to breathe. One of our group, Mason, went deaf in his left ear on the spot. The doctor said it was sudden nerve failure. He still dreams of that song. The sound gate doesn't want you to hear. It wants you to feel. It wants you to remember its melody even after silence returns. The third portal is the worst. It's called the Gate of Suffering. This one doesn't need mirrors. It doesn't need music. It only needs pain. Emotional pain. Grief. Trauma. Despair. It opens in places soaked with sorrow. I've only seen it twice. Once, in the basement of an abandoned hospital in Pennsylvania. The other, in a bedroom where a child took his own life. Both locations had the same feel. Thick, suffocating, hopeless. The kind of air that tastes like tears. We weren't doing a ritual that time. We were investigating strange reports, visions, nightmares, people claiming something was following them after entering those places. I didn't believe it. Not fully. Until I felt it. The air pulsed. The walls creaked like ribs cracking open. And then came the cold. Not outside cold. Not even supernatural cold. This was emotional cold, the kind that wraps around your soul and squeezes. The kind that makes you want to give up. One of our team, Heather, just sat down and began crying. For no reason. She couldn't stop. Her nose bled. Her eyes swelled shut. She kept saying she wanted to disappear. We pulled her out, but she was never the same. The gate of suffering doesn't take your body. It takes your will. And once it does, it leaves the door open just wide enough for something to come and stay. These portals aren't myths. They're not metaphors. They're traps. And they're baited with our weaknesses. If you start to feel cold when there's no draft, if your reflection moves differently than you do, if you hear songs that no one else can hear, don't ignore it. That's not in your head. That's the portal noticing you. I once used all three in a single ritual. I won't lie to you. It worked. It opened something I can't fully explain. But it cost me everything. Everyone who was there that night is dead. I'm the only one left. And even now, I'm not sure I came out clean. You're probably wondering if these things can be closed. If there's a way to stop them. There is. But not everyone survives the closing. That's a story for later. For now, I need you to understand this. The veil between worlds is thinner than you think. And some of us, some of you, have already stood too close for too long. Watch the signs. Don't stare into mirrors at 3 a.m. Don't follow the sound if it calls you by name. And whatever you do, never stay long in a room that remembers pain. Have you ever heard something in silence? Seen something in your reflection that didn't match? Tell me. I want to know. Because if the portals have found you, it's not too late, but soon it might be. Follow for part 3. The final night, I opened all 3. And don't turn your back on the dark. Part 3. The final night, I opened all 3. I remember that night like a burn I can't stop touching. The room smelled like sulfur and melted wax. The mirror leaned against the wall. A speaker in the corner whispered frequencies only certain ears could catch. The floor had been marked with chalk, and under the surface of my breath, the house already knew what was coming. It was the last time I ever performed a full triad ritual. The mirror gate, the sound gate, the gate of suffering. I had opened them individually before. I had seen what crept through in fragments. But something in me, some madness I didn't realize had infected my thoughts, believed I could harness their full power. I wanted knowledge. I wanted command. I wanted to look into the abyss and walk away unscathed. I thought I was in control. It began at 2:55 a.m. I lit the candles clockwise. whispering the invocation between each flame. I had memorized the script. It was written in a language older than Latin. The words burned the back of my throat. My voice shook, but I kept going. There's no pause once you start. That's the rule. The first gate opened on time. At exactly 3 a.m., the mirror shimmered like it had become liquid. My reflection blinked again, the same as the first time. But this time, it didn't stop there. It smiled. I didn't. It raised its hand slowly. I kept mine still. I watched as it mimed slitting its own throat. And then it laughed without sound. I turned my head, but I didn't break the ritual. I played the recording next. The same track that had deafened Mason. I had modified it with new frequencies, ones meant to bind what came through. As the hum filled the room, my vision blurred. I saw the candle flames flicker inward as if the air was being sucked towards something unseen. Then came the singing. It was faint at first, feminine, sad, the sound of someone mourning what they could never get back. Then it layered, dozens of voices, men, women, children, all singing in different tones, like a funeral choir from every nightmare stitched together. My ears rang so loudly that I tasted iron. But I kept going. Then I opened the final gate. I didn't have to do anything special. I just focused. Thought about every death I had witnessed. Every cry I had ignored. Every friend I had lost. I let it in. Let the grief bloom. Let the guilt wrap around me like a blanket soaked in ice. That was all it took. The air snapped. Every candle went out. The mirror didn't show a reflection anymore. It showed a tunnel, long, endless, with movement in the dark. The speaker cracked, then went silent. The walls around me throbbed with something alive. My chest hurt like my heart had stopped, then restarted backwards. And then it came. No name fits it. No word can hold it. It moved without moving. Its shape changed every time I tried to focus. Sometimes it was tall and skeletal. Sometimes it crawled. Sometimes it had wings made of eyes. Sometimes it had no face at all. It didn't speak with words. It spoke with sensation. I felt terror as if injected into my bloodstream. I felt time unraveling. I saw every mistake I ever made happening all at once. I saw futures that had not happened yet. I saw versions of myself that had died in rituals I never performed. And then I realized the worst thing. The gate wasn't closing. It hadn't come through. It had pulled me in. My body was still in that room, yes. But my soul had been snatched. I was somewhere between spaces. Somewhere outside of time. I floated in a place with no light, but where shadows still existed. And I was not alone. I could hear whispers. Not around me. Inside me. They told me I would never be the same. They told me I had seen too much. That I belonged to the void now. That part of me had been marked and could never be washed clean. I begged. Not out loud. In thought. I begged for mercy. I don't know what pulled me back. Maybe it was something good. Maybe it was something worse than what had pulled me in. All I know is I woke up hours later with my face against the floor. My ears were bleeding. My hands were burned. The mirror was shattered. I was alone. Everyone else I had invited to witness that ritual was gone. Not dead. Not missing. Gone. No trace. No names on any documents. No records. Their apartments were emptied. Their families had no memory of them. It was as if the gate had not only taken them, but had erased them from reality. And somehow I stayed. That's what I wrestle with every day. Why me? Why did I survive? Maybe I didn't. Maybe what's writing this isn't the same man who started that ritual. Maybe I'm just the echo that got left behind. Maybe that's what the portals want. Echoes. Shells. I've never opened them again. But I still feel them. I wake up some nights at 3 a.m. sharp. Not because of nightmares. Because I hear something. A soft hum, a whisper, a breath against the back of my neck. The veil between our world and theirs never reseals perfectly. It's scarred, torn, and I carry the tear inside me. If you ever try to open them, thinking you'll gain power or knowledge, or even some kind of forbidden enlightenment, hear me now. It's not worth it. They don't want to be seen. They want to be let in. And once you open all three at once, you don't get to choose what comes through. You don't even get to choose if you come back. Have you ever lost time, stared into your reflection, and wondered if it was really you looking back? If so, you may already be on the other side of something. Stay awake. Part 4 is next. I'll tell you what I discovered when I looked for help and found answers I never expected. Some called it science. Others called it faith. I think it's both. Follow now and be ready. What's coming next may explain the unexplainable. Part 4. Not just the occult, it's science and faith. When I left that house, I didn't take anything with me. Not the books, not the relics, not even my clothes. I walked out barefoot into the cold air of dawn, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerful. I felt broken. The ritual had destroyed everything I thought I understood. What I had summoned, what I had seen, didn't follow the laws of the occult as I knew them. It didn't just defy religious doctrine. It bent reality. It tore logic apart. But what scared me the most was not the silence afterward. It was the patterns that followed. The whispers didn't stop. The mirror didn't just reflect me. Sometimes it showed other rooms. Sometimes it showed someone watching me from behind my own eyes. I started losing time. 2 minutes here, 10 minutes there. One time I woke up in a different city with no memory of how I got there. And then came the dreams. They weren't dreams like before. They were memories I had never lived. Sometimes I was a child I didn't recognize. Sometimes a woman. Sometimes I was looking at myself from above, as if watching a movie of my own death again and again. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't pray. I needed answers. So I did something I had never done before. I walked into a church, not to mock, not to challenge, but to beg. The priest was young, maybe 30. He looked at me like I was already a ghost. I told him I wasn't there for confession. I just needed to talk to someone who still believed in good. He listened to everything, every twisted detail, every gate, every face, every scream. When I finished, he didn't tell me I was crazy. He told me I wasn't the first. He showed me files, folders full of handwritten accounts, old newspaper clippings, psychological reports, and photographs. That's when it hit me. These people had seen what I had seen. They described portals, not using those words. Some called them cracks. Some said windows. Others said their minds had split open and let something in. But the symptoms were all the same. Insomnia, hallucinations, missing time, voices and frequencies just above normal hearing. Paranoia followed by obsessive behavior. Many of them had died. Some had disappeared, but a few had survived. And here's the twist I never expected. Some of them were scientists. One name kept showing up. Dr. Lena Madsen, a neuroscientist who had worked for a research group studying what they called cross-dimensional perception events. It sounded like science fiction, but it wasn't. I tracked her down. Took months. She was off the grid. Retired early. Lived in a cabin near the mountains. When I finally reached her, she didn't ask how I found her. She just looked at me and said one thing. "You opened the mirror gate too long." I nodded. She invited me inside and poured tea. I didn't drink it. She opened a laptop and showed me footage. Brain scans, readings, videos of people reacting to stimuli that had no sound, no images, just pulses, like something was pushing through a thin wall in their minds. She said she had called them anomalies, but she now believed they were doors. Real ones. She didn't believe in demons. Not at first. But she believed in consciousness beyond matter. Frequencies that interacted with the brain like software hijacking hardware. She said mirrors weren't magical. They were reflective surfaces capable of resonating frequencies under certain conditions. She said pain and trauma made the brain more receptive, like cracking open a shell to let something else slide in. I asked her if she thought it could be reversed. She looked away and said one person had done it. A man who had balanced the scientific understanding of the phenomena with deep, unwavering faith. He believed what he saw wasn't just another dimension. He believed it was hell. Literal, scriptural, eternal, and that the only thing that kept him sane was prayer. That was the second time in my life I cried in front of a stranger. Not because I was afraid. Because I knew she was right. This wasn't just about ancient rituals or forgotten gods. This wasn't just a neurological malfunction. This was the convergence of something old and something modern. Science was only catching up with what sacred texts had already warned us about. They used different words, but the meaning was the same. Portals, gateways, doors, temptation, possession. You can call it psychosis, or you can call it spiritual warfare. But either way, it's real. Dr. Madsen gave me one last piece of advice before I left. She said the more you focus on the darkness, the more it notices you. The only way to close the connection is to change the frequency. Faith, she said, is a frequency. So I started praying. Not the mechanical kind I mocked as a teenager. I prayed like my life depended on it. Because it did. The whispers didn't stop overnight. But they got quieter. The faces in the mirror faded. My sleep returned. Slowly. Then fully. I still wake at 3 a.m. sometimes. But I don't panic. I sit still. I say one name. And then I sleep again. Whatever it is that comes through the gates, it fears light. It fears peace. It fears love. You don't need a PhD or a pentagram to protect yourself. You just need to believe. Believe that you are not meant to be a door. You are meant to be a wall. And that wall can hold. Even now. Especially now. Final part coming soon. Part 5. A warning and a way out. If you've read this far, it's not by accident. Something in you already knows the truth. You felt the presence at 3 a.m. You've seen the flicker in your reflection. You've heard your name when no one was there. In the final part, I'll tell you how to shut the gates, what to avoid, what to embrace, and the truth about the rumored fourth gate. But I want to hear from you first. Have you ever felt like something unseen was watching? Have you ever looked into a mirror and seen something you couldn't explain? Tell your story. You are not alone. And follow now so you won't miss the final part. Because some gates don't wait. They open when you stop believing. Part 5. A warning and a way out. I'm not sharing this to scare you. I'm sharing it because you need to know. Every night, while the world sleeps, things move beneath the veil of silence. Things we've ignored. Things we've invited without even knowing. The truth is this. The 3 gates are real. I have seen them. I have opened them. I have survived them. And they are still opening. Every night. You don't have to be a warlock. You don't have to chant in Latin. Sometimes all it takes is a mirror, a song, or a silent scream at 3 a.m. that no one else hears, but something else does. Some of you reading this already know what I mean. Some of you have seen the signs. The mirror that flickers when no light is on. The whisper in your headphones when the track is over. The chill in your chest when you pass by that one room in your house. You thought it was your mind playing tricks. It wasn't. Let me make this clear. These gates are most active when 3 things happen at once. You are vulnerable. You are unaware. And you are alone. If that sounds like your life right now, you need to listen closely. There are ways to protect yourself. I'm not here to preach, but I've lived through things I wouldn't wish on anyone, and I've learned how to close a gate. Here's what you need to know. First, stay away from mirrors between 2:50 and 3:30 a.m., especially if you're feeling emotional or drained. Cover them if you must, but do not look. The reflection is not always yours. Second, never let music play on loop while you sleep, especially sad music or ambient frequencies. I've seen people accidentally tune into what we used to call the whisper channel. Once it's open, it doesn't stop until something answers back. Third, pain invites pain. If you are struggling with depression, anxiety, or grief, know this. It's not weakness. It's human. But the gate of suffering feeds on this energy like fuel. Get help. Talk to someone. Do not sit in the dark hoping it will go away, because something might show up. And finally, pray. Not because it's trendy, not because I said so, but because prayer is a signal. It tells the other side you are claimed. You are covered. You are not available. I say the same prayer every night now. I speak it with intention, not fear, not desperation, just truth. It works. I've seen people close gates they didn't even know they had opened, just by speaking light into their lives again. So if you're still awake tonight at 3 a.m., if the air feels heavy, if the silence feels loaded, if you feel like you're being watched, speak. Even a whisper is enough. You are not powerless. You are not alone. And you are not a door. You are a soul. And souls are not meant to be invaded. One last thing before I go. There may be a fourth gate. One that doesn't open from this side. One that only opens when someone refuses to believe any of this is real. I hope you never find out what that gate leads to. Because I almost did. And I barely made it back. If you felt something strange after midnight, I want to hear from you. Have you experienced flickering shadows and mirrors? Heard voices no one else hears? Felt like you weren't alone in your room? Drop your story in the comments. Don't be ashamed. You might help someone else realize they're not going crazy. And if you want to learn how to protect yourself even deeper, how to seal these portals for good, and the truth about the forbidden fourth gate, subscribe now so you don't miss the next story. Turn on notifications, because I post when the veil is thinnest. Comment with the if you've ever felt something at 3 a.m. Because the gates may open in silence, but your voice can close them. And you are not alone anymore. Not here. Not ever.